Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have another great show for you today. Guess what? Bryan Kohberger, he is still complaining. The Donna Adelson trial begins. A teen was arrested at a grocery store that he worked at for taking some stuff that they were going to throw away. Guess what? An award-winning high school counselor arrested. I wonder for what? Why were her parents allowing sleepovers? We have This Day in Legal History, our legal quote of the day, and of course, our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. Hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can check us out anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. All right, before we get to the day's docket, let me remind you to go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, guess what? You'll be able to do as many background searches as you desire on anyone here in the United States. You're going to get all types of information about, well, their social media presence. You're going to find out about their phone numbers that they have. You're going to find out, well, emails that they use. You may think, why would I want to know all that? Well, why do they have 7 different email addresses that they don't tell you about? Could it be for all those dating sites that they signed up for? Possibly, ladies and gentlemen. You'll also be able to find out if they have, I don't know, criminal history. Are they a sex offender? Are they married? Are they divorced? Do they have liens and judgments against them? Go check it out, CrimeTalkSearch.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and open the docket for Thursday, August 21st, 2025. And first on the docket, yet again, Bryan Kohberger. That's right, the biggest mama's boy serving a life sentence. Well, his mother won't be able to help him out of this one, but the 30-year-old convicted of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in 2022 now faces a different kind of trial in Idaho's maximum security prisons. That's right, enduring taunts from fellow inmates while awaiting what could be an endless life sentence. Well, fresh off his June 2025 conviction and transfer to Idaho's maximum security institution, Kohberger has wasted no time lodging complaints, starting with a July 30th grievance about cell flooding and minute-by-minute verbal threats, cleverly requesting a move to a quieter block as if prison were a hotel with a bad review. By August 4th, his gripes escalated to explicit sexual threats, quoting inmates with lines like, "I'll butt F you," and "the only ass will be eating is Kohberg's," which prisons officials investigated but dismissed after the security officers noted only vulgar language, a polite way of saying prison banter isn't exactly Shakespearean. Not content with harassment claims alone, no, Kohberger also nitpicked his meals, handwriting a complaint on July 31st about missing food tray items, insisting on full nutritional standards as if behind bars were a fine dining establishment. Once again, prison authorities rebuffed his transfer pleas, advising him to give it some time, and noting that inmate chatter through vents is par for the course. Those sources say the nonstop taunting is driving him crazy at all hours. And in a twist of irony, Kohberger's frequent filings highlight a harsh prison truth. Incessant complaining often invites more trouble, turning a complainer into an even bigger target among those who view grievances as weakness. Meanwhile, his legal saga lingers with unrelated developments like an August 2025 court order halting the release of crime scene photos to protect the victim's privacy. Set for a hearing later this month, a reminder that Kohberger's past actions will echo beyond his cell walls. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, you don't want to be a complainer. I had a client years ago. He thought he was going to take on the world. That was his thing. He filed complaints. He went after everybody. And all it got him was, well, almost nearly a life sentence of some 20, 25 years. And when he went to prison, I would receive letters from him because he was still doing the same fighting, arguing over every little thing that he thought was an injustice. Well, you're in custody, and I get it. We don't want you to be abused or tortured, but this is what takes place in prison, ladies and gentlemen. What can I tell you? I don't feel much sympathy for Mr. Kohberger in any way possible. And I know yesterday we said he's a mama's boy and he wants his mommy, and everybody said, no, it's not his mommy, it's his mother. You were totally correct. And guess what? His mother isn't going to be able to help him out of this one either. Although, Mrs. Kohberger, I think you should definitely call the warden and ask that your son be moved immediately. I'm almost positive that it will be seen as a very positive thing by the prison staff that his mother is so involved, and I highly encourage you to do that. All right? Go ahead. Go for it, Mrs. Kohberger. Next on the docket, Donna Adelson's trial is beginning. That's right. Donna Adelson, alleged to be a key figure in the 2014 orchestrated killing of then Florida State University law professor Dan Markle, her former son-in-law. Following 2 days dedicated to individual juror interviews where the candidates were probed on their exposure to media coverage of this prominent case, the collective jury selection was scheduled to start this morning, and should a panel of 12 jurors and 3 alternates be finalized, proceedings could advance later today, as anticipated by the judge. Opening statements first thing tomorrow. And guess what? We're bringing it to you live. So come to Crime Talk with Scott Reich, where you can watch the trial gavel-to-gavel coverage. Now, for those who don't know, Miss Adelson is 75, and she's facing charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation related to Markle's death, an incident that has resulted in convictions for 4 others, including Miss Adelson's son, Charlie. Now, the contract killing occurred amid a contentious court battle over child custody between Markle and his ex-wife, Wendy Adelson. Well, the judge has directed the remaining pool of 110 potential jurors to obviously appear at the courthouse, where they were going to continue to whittle down potential jurors. What were the prosecutors asking about during the probing of jurors, also known as voir dire, a French term that means to speak the truth, to make sure the jurors could be fair and impartial to both sides? Well, the attorneys were probing prospective jurors on their preconceptions of what a perpetrator might look like, specifically inquiring if such an individual could resemble a grandmother, a clear allusion to, obviously, Miss Adelson. What image comes to mind for a killer? The district attorney asked one of the candidates. The juror responded that there is no standard appearance. She followed up by asking if a killer could appear as a granny and urged jurors to maintain impartiality. Affirmative responses were noted by all of the potential jurors. There were inquiries into views as it relates to law enforcement and the justice system, and the judge, along with the counsel from both the prosecution and the defense, examined potential jurors on various subjects to ensure their fairness. Now, the judge initiated questionings about occupation, marital status, family, residency, duration in Leon County, and any connections to law enforcement, or if anyone has any personal criminal history themselves. Like I said, the goal is to assemble a jury pool of fair and impartial jurors for both sides. The attorneys recited their witness list, prompting jurors to disclose any acquaintances they may know. One individual mentioned a friendship with a lead FBI agent by the name of Pat Stafford, but affirmed it would not influence the potential jurors' judgment in any way. The prosecutors also asked if jurors would voice dissenting views during deliberations, and emphasized that the defense bears no obligation to present any evidence. Now, the entire responsibility rests with the prosecution. Judge Everett convened the state and defense attorneys in the jury room prior to commencing the group selection, and Donna Adelson attended as well. And with the judge expected to rule on defense motion to seek to exclude testimony from state witness Drina Bernhardt, a fellow inmate who reportedly engaged in discussions with Miss Adelson. Allegations involve Adelson offering payment for testimony, with the defense claiming that Miss Bernhardt acted as an improper informant for authorities. What do I always say, ladies and gentlemen? When you're in custody, zip it, zilch, keep your mouth shut. But nobody ever believes you. Everybody wants to talk about their case. Why are you here? Oh, let me help you with that. And then somebody gets some good information and says, hey, let me try to get a better result in my case by snitching on some little old lady that was trying to escape to Vietnam. There's already been 4 convictions. It's a fait accompli. No one will bother me, right? Well, that's right. You talk, people are going to use it against you. Anyway, there was also a pretty small a collection of jurors that actually showed from the initial 900 that were supposed to show up. Only 600 were called for the first 2 days, and only 223 or 37% actually appeared. That's a sad state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone should want to do jury duty. Other than maybe voting, it's basically, you hear about constitutional rights all the time. You read about Supreme Court cases, but other than voting and being on jury service, that's really where the rubber meets the road for most people as it relates to basically constitutional law. Criminal law is constitutional law, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the docket, some supermarket shenanigans. When chicken nuggets lead to cuffs. That's right. In the heartland of Ohio, a grocery giant named Major is dodging digital tomatoes as calls for a boycott erupt over their decision to summon the police on a 19-year-old deli whiz with a disability, all for nibbling on some nosh during his shifts. That's right. The Midwest Mega Mart found itself in hot water this week when body cam clips surfaced, capturing young James Dennison in a tense situation with the Seven Hills officers back in March of 2024. Picture this. A jittery James parked in his manager's office while said boss beams like he's sharing a killer deal on produce, casually spilling the beans to the law about the teen's supposed snack swipes. We've got James from the deli, the manager chirped, and he's been helping himself to chicken orders, fruit cups, and the like. Turns out the grand total of the culinary caper, a whopping $110 spread over 3 months. Hardly the heist of the century. Now, James played it cool as officers patted him down, slapped on the bracelets, and escorted him out. En route to the squad car, he spilled his side. He'd forgotten his wallet one day, grabbed grub to break, intending to settle up later, but his bosses loomed with the write-up threats when he dulled at the register. The officer, channeling a bit of Midwestern mercy, advised James not to dig his own grave verbally, adding with a wink, "We're not your average badge brigade. We like to lend a hand." Booked for petty pilfering and sprung from bail, per reports. Anyway, fast forward to now. The footage has boomeranged across the web multiple times, igniting a firestorm of fury. Netsians are sharpening their pitchforks, demanding a major moratorium. The chain finally piped up Wednesday evening, admitting they'd revamped their playbook post-fiasco, though mum on the deets. We've heard the chatter about last year's kerfuffle with an ex-employee at our Seven Hills spot, they confessed. We own that it could have been managed with a little more finesse. We rolled out some fresh protocols to prevent encores, learned our lessons, and vowed to treat folks like a premium cuts we stock. The mea culpa marks a pivot from their April chat with Inc., where they doubled down. Probes revealed repeated deliberate dips into inventory over months, racking up hundreds, hence the blue lights. Post-viral vortex, a kind-hearted nurse, Carrie Campbell, launched a GoFundMe to foot James' legal bills, noting he's learning challenged. It ballooned to $28,000 before mysteriously vanishing, poof. That's right, no word of Campbell's link to James and queries to GoFundMe. Major and the local PD are still hanging in their air like overripe bananas. In a world where supermarkets peddle family values alongside family-sized chips, this tale serves up a little bit of irony, doesn't it? Sometimes the real theft is a missed opportunity for compassion over some cold cuts. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the docket, guess what? Another award-winning guidance guru accused of turning sleepovers into a nightmare saga. So, in a plot twist that would make even the most jaded screenwriter blush, a now former Colorado Counselor of the Year faces allegations of repeatedly sexually assaulting a female student during what were innocently billed as home sleepovers, and reportedly dangled the threat of self-harm to keep the lid on it, per law enforcement reports. So please meet Cassandra Ponslow. Guess what? She's 40 and first crossed paths with this young woman in her counseling role at a high school in Fort Collins, Colorado, specifically the Poudre School District. Now, what began as office chats allegedly evolved into invitations for overnight stays at Ponslow's residence, as detailed in the arrest affidavit. Now, the accuser, having reached adulthood, recently spoke to the police in July, asserting that these encounters led to over 100 instances of assault, spanning multiple years, all unfolding under Ponslow's roof. While exact timelines remain under wraps by the police, Ponslow's tenure with the district ran from 2007 through 2024. The young woman described profound despair following the alleged incident, yet Ponslow purportedly countered with "spill the beans and I'll end it all," according to the arrest affidavit. In a later moment of apparent clarity, post-sobriety, Ponslow expressed remorse, admitting an infatuation while conceding the glaring improprieties. The blurred lines, the authority imbalance, the sheer wrongness of it all. Ironically, this same individual scooped up Colorado 2016 School Counselor of the Year honors from the state school board counseling body and even vied for the national recognition back in 2018. Fast forward to her arrest this week. Charges include sexual assault on a minor by someone in the position of trust, sexual child exploitation, and aggravated assault by a mental health professional on a client. Might as well throw in a little SAOC pattern. Let's just make it 10 to life, indeterminate life sentence. That's right. Well, guess what? The defendant is now in jail on a $500,000 cash-only bond. You think you can make that, ladies and gentlemen? Probably not. Probably a good idea. Keep those young ones away from you. Don't touch them. Certainly don't invite them over to your house. Makes you kind of wonder, what were the parents doing? Anyway, the official school district officials labeled this claims profoundly disturbing and affirmed their full cooperation with the ongoing probe. Now, whispers of misconduct first reached Colorado's Human Service Department back in 2023, but the alleged victim initially downplayed any romantic elements, leading to a case closure until her decision to step forward last month reopened the floodgates. Well, Ponslow's professional trail, as per her online resume, included stints as a part-time counselor and engagement expert from 2011 to 2024, culminating in a full-time role guiding freshmen at a high school success center. Anyway, the institution swiftly sidelined her on leave mere hours after the cuffs clicked. What a career pivot, would you not agree? From the accolades to allegations. Let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Is it me, or does it seem like we're a lot of female teachers, counselors, having lots of more trouble these days? I don't know why. Usually it was always the creepy guy that was the gym teacher or the history teacher. But sleepovers? I don't know. This may be the time to try out one of those new novel legal theories that the parents would do that. Now, my kids have played sports. They've traveled. They've done everything. But guess what? They didn't sleep in the room or the house of any coach or anything like that. Unbelievable that, one, this teacher, and we'll give her the presumption of innocence, but, you know, she apparently has confessed already, but we'll give her the presumption. Why would she think that was a good idea? Two, why would the parents think that was a good idea? And three, I don't know. I don't think I ever went over to any teacher's house as a kid growing up. Not a one. Not a single one. And I can't believe somebody in the school didn't know that beforehand. Somebody had to know. Somebody had to know. Just unbelievable. Poudre Valley School District, ooh, get that checkbook ready, ladies and gentlemen. And it's going to keep getting more and more expensive till, you know, they start checking out these people hanging around people's kids. All right? General rule of thumb, ladies and gentlemen, you got to be careful where all the kids are. Got to be careful about the kids, the people that want to be with the kids. Why? Because they want to be near the kids. Also, general rule, I love my kids, right? And when they were younger, junior high, high school, last thing I want to do is hang out with any of their friends. None of them, even when they're little. It was busy enough just keeping yours around. Why would you want to take on that added responsibility? People that do, I don't know. Just they need to go to crimetalksearch.com and check them out, ladies and gentlemen. And any teacher that does that does something without a witness, or they always keep their door open. I mean, I was taught in the military, when you are counseling anyone, even a female Marine, you have your door open, or you would have a witness in there to make sure there was nothing inappropriate going on. These teachers need to get some common sense, man. Check their libido at the door, too. Next on the docket, this day in legal history, August 21st, 1798, the United States Supreme Court Justice James Wilson dies as a signer of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. His work shaped early federal judiciary and bankruptcy laws. August 21st, 1821, the United States annexes Jarvis Island in the Pacific under the command of Captain Brown, establishing legal claim through discovery and occupational principles in international law. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I understand we've all done some really bad things. Our country's done some bad things. But that's just the way it was done. Business. It was through conquest. They just do it. They just a little more softer these days, but it's always been about the conquest. It's always been about the money, ladies and gentlemen, right? They wanted the minerals. They wanted the gold. It's always about the money. August 21st, 1858, the first of the Lincoln-Douglas debates begin in Ottawa, Illinois, focusing on slavery extension, states' rights, and constitutional interpretation that influenced the 1860 election and obviously the Civil War era laws. August 21st, 1959, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signs a proclamation admitting Hawaii as the 50th United States following congressional legislation and fulfilling the legal process for territorial incorporation. August 21st, 1974, Gerald Ford signs the Equal Education Opportunities Act, a civil rights law prohibiting discrimination in public education based on race, color, sex, or national origin. August 21st, 2018, Michael Cohen, former lawyer to President Donald Trump, pleads guilty to federal campaign finance violations, tax evasion, and bank fraud in a high-profile case tied to election laws. And also today, if you hadn't heard, the appellate courts in New York reversed the $500 million judgment against the president and his companies as a violation of the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, excessive fines, etc. We'll leave that one right there. Next, our legal quote of the day comes from the American Bar Association's Model Rules of Professional Conduct 1.7, which defines a conflict for lawyers. A concurrent conflict of interest exists if, one, the representation of one client will be directly adverse to another client, or two, there is a significant risk that the representation of one or more clients will be materially limited by the lawyer's responsibility to another client, a former client or a third person, or by a personal interest of the lawyer. So this rule serves as a foundational for ethical standards for attorneys in the United States, emphasizing the duty to avoid divided loyalties that could impair professional judgment or confidentiality. And it's widely adopted by both state bar associations. I bring that up because, ladies and gentlemen, you always hear about attorneys. They replace both sides. No, generally, particularly in criminal defense, everybody gets their own lawyer. You can't have two lawyers representing the same client because they have competing interests. Even if you say you are totally aligned with one another, well, you're not. I've said it before, and I will say it again. The threat of imminent incarceration tends to break the bonds of loyalty. And if you share the same attorney as your spouse or your co-defendant, well, you may not feel free to talk about you want to exercise your own self-preservation. Every now and then you see a lawyer that likes to say they want to represent both parties in a criminal case. It's different in a civil case, but in this criminal case, it's different in a civil case, but in a criminal case, one attorney per defendant. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. In a notable incident reported by authorities in Tampa, Florida, a man allegedly crashed a drone transporting illegal drugs into a residential property. What does he do then after that? Well, he approached the homeowners by ringing their doorbell and requesting the return of both the drone and the drugs. Anyway, the event obviously shows some lapse in judgment, aligning with patterns observed in similar cases under the Florida man phenomenon. But what are the details? The drone carrying controlled substance collides with a home. The individual then personally sought retrieval of the items. Outcome, law enforcement, they intervened, leading to the man's arrest, identified as Jason Brooks, based on available reports. Anyway, such occurrences obviously show that unauthorized drone use and drug distribution, well, often resulting in some swift apprehension due to some very traceable actions. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? All that stuff, your drone, you got to register it. The FAA knows exactly what DJI knows when it goes up, when it goes down. They can track it all. So all you budding drug dealers, don't use the drone either. I got a better idea. Just don't sell drugs. Just say no, as Nancy Reagan used to say. All right, that's all we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the show. Join us tomorrow. And remember, the Constitution matters.